Hello, everyone, and welcome to our GitBook webinar. Really excited to take us all through some of the new things that we've been releasing over the last few months. Get to chat with some of you all in the chat as well. I'm going to go over a few things right at the start. We'll cover our agenda, and then we'll dive right into it, so you can learn everything new about what's going on in GitBook. Feel free to leave any questions that you have in the chat or put them in the questions functionality there, and we'll make sure that we get to them. We do have some other GitBook moderators that are also going to help. Let me start by sharing my screen, and we'll dive right in. One moment. Oops. All right. So I think everyone can go ahead and see me. Let me know in the chat if you are having issues. So welcome to our Meet the New GitBook session. As I kind of mentioned just a minute ago, we're going to cover all the new things that's going on in GitBook, including things like our updated branding, all the new features that we have. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. My name's Addison. I lead our developer relations team at GitBook, and we've been working on a lot of really fun things over the last couple months, including things like our integration platform, expanding the ecosystem of integrations that you can use in the editor and in the things that you publish on GitBook, but also in terms of the different features that we've been making in things like GitBook AI, Snippets, Insights, all things that you might have seen already, but also things that we're going to cover in this webinar too. So here's a little bit of the agenda that we're going to hop in and cover today. We'll go ahead and take a look at our updating branding, look at things like our typography, the new logo that we chose. Then we'll dive into GitBook in a couple different use cases. So we're first going to take a look at GitBook for what I would imagine a lot of you here on the call are using it for, which is public documentation. We'll dive into our content editor, a little bit more about sharing and publishing your spaces and the things that you make in GitBook, how to customize different things, including things like domains, change requests, etc. And then we'll take a look at GitBook for internal knowledge bases. So we've seen a lot of teams start using GitBook for, well, basically harnessing company knowledge. And we've been adding a lot of features that, like I said, I think you've probably seen already. Things like GitBook AI, Snippets, Insights, and a lot more. So we'll definitely cover all of that in today's webinar. We're also going to dive into Git Sync. I wanted to throw that into this webinar as well, because I think it's also a pretty important feature that a lot of you are using. So I just want to cover a lot of the ins and outs of how to set it up, what that looks like. And like I said, also leave some time at the end for some questions. So on anything that you have on GitBook, feel free to pop it into the chat or the questions, and we'll get to it at the end. We'll also give you a little bit of a sneak preview at what we're kind of working on next. So make sure you stay tuned to the end. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is our updated branding. If you haven't seen it, this is our new logo and a few of our colors and illustrations that we choose for our website, marketing materials, but most importantly, the GitBook app. We did go through quite a lot of exploration on kind of what we wanted to choose for a logo. We wanted it to be a little bit more modern feeling, kind of something that would represent the brand in terms of what our company is doing, providing solutions for maintaining and building out technical knowledge. But we also wanted it to feel kind of similar to our old previous brand, so it could be recognizable and feel kind of familiar. We also started we started off by choosing a new typeface. So the one that we actually landed on is called ABC Favorite. Here's a few of the different weights that you can see and a few of the characters themselves. And I think that this one actually lends itself pretty nicely to the things that we're doing at GitBook, and it fits really nicely with the rest of the app. And again, if you haven't seen any of this yet, feel free to log in and you'll see all of this stuff live already. We also had to come up with a new logo on top of that as well. Here are some of the original concepts that we kind of started off with, and obviously kind of where we ended up. I always think it's pretty cool taking a look at the evolution of a logo, especially in our case, because it turned out really, really nice. And it's also, like I said, pretty familiar to the previous logo that we had. I wanted to mention on that, we also just put out a awesome blog post on everything that I just covered in terms of the updated branding. So make sure you head to our blog at gitbook.com/blog, and you can read all about it and a little bit more in depth on the design decisions there. But without further ado, let's dive in. We're going to hop right into the demo and take a look and see what's new. Let me actually just check the chat very quickly, see if there is anything that I'm missing. Cool. Looks like everyone can kind of hear and see me, so that's perfect. One moment, I'll share my screen again. All right, so here we are at the homepage of GitBook. Again, feel free to check this out. This has all of our updated branding, and we redid the entire thing from the ground up. So check it out if you haven't. We have some nice little Easter eggs in there as well. But the first thing that I want to do is actually open up the app. And we're going to start by doing a kind of an overview of the content editor, where to find things, kind of get the lay of the land. We've also just released some new features that are relevant to this as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and cover them. So the first thing that I kind of want to highlight is the sidebar that you see over here in terms of navigation. You're going to find everything that you need here in terms of the content that you're going to be creating or looking for. We'll start up in the upper left. You have your organization switcher. There's probably a good chance that you might only have one organization, but you'll find that up here in the left. You also have a search bar that is built in with GitBook AI. And we're going to cover GitBook AI later on in the webinar, but just wanted to point out that everything up here is powered by this. You can search for things. You can ask questions on any of the content that you have. But the home section that you see that I'm landed on right now is what I wanted to start by pointing out. We just shipped earlier this month. And you'll find it really useful to take a look at things like your recent spaces, things that people are working on in your team. But you also have a place to find featured integrations and a little bit more about GitBook in general, including the webinar that we're in right now. In the sidebar as well, you'll also find things like snippets and insights. We're going to, again, cover that a little bit later. But you'll find any of the spaces or collections that you have on the left-hand navigation side as well. So you'll see that this demo account that I have set up has a couple different collections, and inside of here, you'll see that there are a lot of different spaces. But we're actually going to start by creating a new space by using this little button here. So you can also create a new collection from this, but we're going to start by making a new space. Once we make a new space, I'm going to collapse this the sidebar using this little button here to free up some space. And here is the main kind of bread and butter for GitBook when you're creating more content. Let's go ahead and dive in and see what it's all about. So kind of similar to the sidebar, we have the table of contents here inside of the space itself. So this is where you can go ahead, add new pages, groups, add different external links, etc. And all of this is going to be shown in the published side of things when we get to it. But let's go ahead and fill this in with a few things first. We have a couple different starters that you could use as well. So you could import content from a number of different sources. So clicking this, you'll see you can import things from like a website, Markdown files, zip files, Notion, but also things like GitHub or GitLab. So if you are working on a repository that has things like a README or a documentation folder, you can go ahead and just sync that right away and continue using GitBook to customize it and even edit some of the content. That's using a feature called Git Sync, which we're going to take a look at after this. But the first thing that I want to do is actually start by using a template. We have a lot of different templates available for you to use. But for this one, I actually wanted to start by using an internal wiki. So you can go ahead and browse these if you'd like, but I'm going to go ahead and just use this template to start. So what this is going to do is populate, obviously, the space with the template. And you can hop in here and take a look. What's also great about this is you can already start to edit it right away. The next thing that I wanted to cover, though, in terms of editing, is the different things and structure that you can add to a GitBook page. So let me go ahead and start by creating a new page. So we have a blank canvas to work off of. You'll have things like your title up here, so you can go ahead and change that, add an optional page description. But right down here, you'll be able to start writing whatever content that you want. We can say something like, hello world, this is a new page. And on this line, which we call a block, you'll have a couple of different options for customization. So we can go ahead and add a line below or a block below, or we can click the action menu or the options menu to change it. Do things like turn it into a heading or a H2 or an H3. Any of the headers that you also add here will be added as anchors. You'll also see the little anchor tag here. So by clicking this, you'll be able to link to that directly. With any of the blocks that you also insert, you'll also be able to comment on. So if we want to add a comment specifically to this header, we can say, hey, does this look okay to you? And send it. Anyone available in this space will get notifications. They'll be also able to interact with this. So they'll be able to reply to it or emoji, respond to it, or even resolve it. And this one is specifically to this page, but you can also leave full page comments and see kind of what's going on and filter them by open or resolved. So after we have like a header, we can also add a couple different, well, actually a lot of different blocks. We have something called the block editor. Then you can press the / key to pull that up. And inside of here, we have a lot of different things. You can add things like images, emojis, links. We can also add more content specifically like paragraphs, headers, lists, task lists, dividers. But we also have really interactive ones as well. So something like a hint we could add. And we can also change the type of hint just by clicking on this and start typing something like this is a hint. Like I said, there's a ton of different blocks, so make sure you press the / key, pull that up, and take a look at it. There's things for quotes, code blocks, inserting things like files, embed URLs. We're going to take a look at that as well in just a little bit. Tables, cards, tabs, expandable, drawing, lots and lots of different things. But the main thing the other thing that I wanted to highlight is not only can you insert content directly to the page as you've just seen, but we have a number of different integrations that will allow you to interact with a GitBook page right from this menu, or depending on how the integration kind of works. You'll also find the integrations menu in the upper left-hand corner of any space that you're in. And then you can go ahead and browse for any integration that you want to use. So we have them also organized in different categories. You can look at all of them here. For instance, we could go ahead and insert a Lucid integration directly to the page. And this will allow you to embed Lucid charts or Lucid kind of diagrams directly into the page. In order to install an integration, all you have to do is pull it up, go ahead and install it. And once you do that, you should be able to find the instructions directly inside of the integrations page and how to use it. Because some integrations allow you, again, to insert a block. Other integrations kind of just run in the background, specifically things like, let's say, like PostHog or something like Google Analytics that doesn't insert itself as a block, but will just kind of interact with the page itself. But because we went ahead and added that block, or we installed the integration, we can now insert the block. And this just lets you basically post a URL of a Lucid chart and it will embed it into the page here. So make sure you check that out. There's a ton of different integrations that you can use, but if you're also interested in building your own, we do have a fully fledged integrations platform that you can go ahead and build on top of. You can find that at developer.gitbook.com and look at the full API reference, the integration section, or visitor authentication as well. I do want to kind of take a look now after we've seen kind of the editor experience and how that all works. What happens after we're done with our content? So you just delete this page quick and head back to the main section. Let's do something like let's say company knowledge base. So now that we have this kind of space all ready to go, we can go ahead and publish this. So in the upper right-hand corner, you'll always find a share sheet, and this allows you to customize the way that you want people to interact with this. There's a couple different options in here, so let me go ahead and go through all of them. The first one is going to be the invite members. So this is going to allow your team to collaborate specifically on this space. GitBook is also real time, so if you invite someone else, you'll see their cursors inside of the page that you're working on. You'll be able to work on a page at the same time. But you can also invite external people specifically using this. You also see a little bit of a little snippet on like what it means to be in an organization, and if you'll be able to see a space, and you can go ahead and change this around as needed. But we're actually specifically more interested in publishing this to the web. So instead of users required to have a GitBook account to log in and edit things, they can just access and read the things that we've written. And that's going to be done with this publish to the web option. So after we go ahead and publish it, we can click visit site right away. And we'll see the company knowledge base that we have. And all of this is available now. So if you go to Jetstream GitBook IO/company knowledge base, you'll be able to read and see all of this as I continue working on it. So the other thing then that we can do after we publish it is customize this in a number of different ways. Chances are you probably don't want your documentation under jetstream.gitbook.io or whatever organization that you have. So you can do things like add a custom domain. So if you bought your own domain or if you own one, you can go to this section right here to basically configure it and wire it up so that when people go to something like docs.gitbook.com, it'll go ahead and redirect you and pull up this published page right away. You'll also be able to customize this if you want to do this specifically under the GitBook domain, but basically with like a different slug or a different way to access it. There are a few other ways that you can also share your spaces, and I'll cover those very quickly here. Obviously, you're only able to kind of choose one way to publish it at a time, but there is ways to share your content privately as well. And you'll be able to head to share to an audience to see the different options that are available to you there. Again, this isn't possible now because I have it published publicly, but we'll take a look. There's a couple different options, things like visitor authentication, share links, and unlisted. Unlisted is going to publish it very similarly to the way that we just did, except it's not going to be indexed by search engines, so you won't be able to basically find it unless you know the direct URL. There's also a way to publish it with a share link, so you can kind of have a more secret link to share with people. But if you want to have people basically log in order to see the content that you've written, you're going to head to publish with visitor authentication. Visitor authentication allows you to basically set up a custom backend so you can control who has access to the content that you have. You can also enforce things like Okta or Auth0, and those are actually all available also in the integration. So you'll see things like the Auth0, Azure, and also Okta. And these work directly hand in hand with visitor authentication. So go ahead and basically fill in the right credentials here. And then when it's published, you'll be able to, well, again, enforce a login in order to access the things that you've published. Happy to answer any questions about that again at the end. I know that's a topic that comes up quite a bit, so feel free to put them into the questions box and we'll get to it. You'll also be able to export this as a PDF if you want to export like a page or the entire space and send it off to someone. And finally, you do have also the who can access section, which is more or less kind of an overview of what's going on with the space that you're working in. So now that we have this space published and it's ready to go, again, feel free to hop in here and check it out as I go ahead and edit a few things. We can also customize the look and feel of this quite a bit. You'll see this option in the upper left-hand corner and in a few other CTAs as you publish. But basically, this allows you to customize the published side of things. So we can do things like update the title or icon, just right like this. We can also add images for the favicon, so that's going to be up here. We can also change the theme. So we have a default bold, which will use the primary color, contrast, which is more or less kind of like a darker version, or custom, which allows you to set custom values for the different things that you see here, and also customize it for light and dark mode. And you can toggle between to see everything in real time. So I'll change this, or maybe I'll do this to something like this blue instead. The primary color will be used in a couple different places, including things like the highlights and throughout the rest of the site as well. So there are also a bunch of other options like the toggle to show light and dark mode if you want your users to be able to change that. Styling from a number of different fonts that you see here. Corner style, so it's defaulted to a little bit more round, but if you want this to be square, it's kind of hard to see, but you might be able to see it with things like the box there. In the background, you can either do a plain color or you can match the theme to make it a little bit more tinted and easier to read. Other things that you can customize include the layout as well. So we also include a header. You can remove that entirely, or if you do have it, you can say something like link 1, and this can go to like Google, and then you can also have drop downs. So drop down 1, and you can have, I think, up to 6 of these drop downs as well. Drop down 2, and then when you go ahead and hover this, you should be able to see. Actually, I think we need some links in here, and once you do that, you'll see the different links, etc. You can also change the pagination on this as well. So at the very end, you'll be able to click to read the next page in your thing, or you can go ahead and turn it off. We also have an option for a footer, which allows you to customize things like the logo and a little bit more navigation as well. You're also able to add things like a social preview. So this is what shows up when you maybe paste it in a tool like Slack, and it will unfurl and it will show maybe a different image than the default one. And you can also configure it to basically have different localized user interfaces between a couple different languages here. Have things like GitBook AI semantic search, which we are going to cover a little bit later, but you can enable that here. PDF export, so your visitors can also export the spaces that you published. Add something like page rating, which will go directly into your Insights tab. We'll also cover that in just a bit. And also add things like a privacy policy to let users know a little bit more about. Let me get rid of that. So after we have this published, again, you can access it right here. Maybe we want to make a few more changes to the space that we're working on. You'll actually see right now that I'm not able to type anything and click. And that's because we are in a mode called locked edits mode. This confuses a few people right off the bat. So hopefully this can kind of shed some light on what this all means and how this all works into it. So when you're in a locked edit mode, as you can see, I can't edit anything. And that comes by default once you publish it or share it with an audience. You can always turn that off. Or you can go ahead and edit in a change request by clicking the edit button up here. Let me just refresh this real quick. So after you go ahead and click the edit button, this creates something called a change request. You'll see the UI kind of changes a little bit, and we're actually able to go ahead and type some things here. A change request is basically an isolated version from the version that's published. You can make whatever changes that you want. You can also collaborate with other people on a change request. And when you have your changes that are ready, you can go ahead and merge them into the main version. So then you'll see those changes live once it's all merged together. But let's make a few edits here. So for instance, maybe we want to change like the page options itself. So outside of customizing the look and feel of the site that's published, you can also customize the pages themselves outside of the content that's on there. So we have like a docs layout preset, which will basically kind of toggle some of these. You can change it to remove or add a cover image. You can also do different sizes for the hero image. The content, you can remove the page title or description, the sidebars, again, the table of contents page outline, or the footer links right here. So for this, let's actually just remove the cover image. I'll go ahead and save that. And at any point, if you want to preview and see kind of what's going on, go ahead and click on the preview, and this will give you kind of like a test of what it's going to look like once it's published. But I think we're pretty much good to go. You can also, I do want to mention actually, if you are in a change request and you're collaborating with other people, you can enable something called diff view. And this is going to show the changes, what pages have been modified and the changes themselves. So actually, for instance, say something like this is another paragraph. And let me go ahead and just remove this. If we open up diff view, you'll see that this whole block was removed and this was added. So you can use that to kind of navigate and see what's been changed inside of change request before it's merged. But let's go ahead and merge it. If you do want to request a review, you can go ahead and notify your teammates and have them kind of review, and you can use all the same features, diff view, commenting, etc., to kind of collaborate and kind of see what's been changed and work on it together. So now that that's been merged, you can head over to here. And if we refresh this, you'll see that the changes are all added. Now, at any point as well, you can view open change requests as well. So I think I accidentally clicked the button twice. So you'll see the first one that I made here. We can edit, enter into it. We can also archive them, put them into review, etc. And you can see all the different things that are kind of going on at once. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention, though, is this is all being done on GitBook. We're using the GitBook editor to edit the content, add it, merge it, etc. But chances are you might be working on a larger team, and some of your team might not be working in GitBook all the time. This is very common, especially if you're working with a development team who might be more used to working inside of the repository for the code, again, where the docs might be actually located inside of. So we actually have a feature called Git Sync, which allows you to hook all of this up and enable something called bidirectional sync. What that means is basically, if you want to work in GitBook, you can go ahead and continue using the GitBook UI to edit everything. Your development team can be working in GitHub or GitLab, and all the changes are going to go both ways. So you'll never be out of beat with each other. You can do this right away by clicking configure. We're going to use GitHub Sync in this case. We're going to install it on the space, and we're going to go ahead and configure this so it's set up. So I'll first have to authenticate myself. After we authenticate, it will ask you to choose your account. So I'll choose my personal one. And then we have to go ahead and choose one. So I'll do meet the new GitBook. You can choose whatever branch that you want as well. But because this is a new repository, we can just call this main. This is important if you're working inside of a directory of like a project. So maybe if you are working on a mono repo or the docs are located inside code, you would type something like docs here, and it would only sync the changes with the stuff inside of that directory. This is a little bit more custom, but if you want to use a custom template for commit messages or see the pull request previews from fork repositories, you can enable those as well. This is important, though. The last step is the initial sync. Basically, where is the content currently living? If you already have your docs inside of GitHub, you're going to choose the second option. Again, basically pull in those changes to GitBook. But because, you choose the first option. But because we've already written everything on GitBook, we're going to choose the second option. So it will basically take the GitBook content and put it onto GitHub. So we'll let this sync. Shouldn't take too long. And now if we head back to the repository and we go ahead and take a look here, everything is all synced up. Now, the other reason that I wanted to highlight this is because this is really useful if you want to take out anything that's related to the stuff that you're writing in GitBook. It's also all added as a markdown file. So if we maybe go to the About Us page, let's go to values, you'll take a look and see everything inside here. You'll be able to see all the code that's generated as well. So you can have a look at that. The other thing that I wanted to mention, though, that's kind of useful with the GitBook side of things specifically on GitHub, if we go ahead and make a pull request, so very similar to change requests, but we're doing this on GitHub, you'll be able to see a preview. So let me see if I can do this very quickly. We'll just head to a random one. I'm going to edit this file and say another line. We'll commit these changes. And instead of committing them directly to main, we're going to create a new branch and start a pull request. So let me propose these changes. And once we create this pull request, basically what's going to happen is GitBook will automatically run a check, and it will allow you to see a preview of the content as well. So if you are working on GitHub and you make some changes as a pull request, you'll also be able to open this up, and you'll see content is live on GitBook, open up the details, and then you'll see this, all the changes that you're making there. Oops, let's go back. Oh, that's the wrong one. It's this one. So very handy, very useful, depending on how you want to collaborate. So make sure you check that out. We've also made quite a few updates to Git Sync in general for the performance and just kind of its reliability. So it should be working a lot better and really good for you right now. So make sure you check that out. Okay, so now that we have a knowledge base kind of all curated and ready to go, it's live, people can go ahead and visit it. We can check out a few of the other features that are related specifically to GitBook that we can use to kind of take a look at our content, our data, and use it in different ways as well. So again, I covered the home section up here. We can take a look at stuff that's recently been edited or accessed. But I had mentioned briefly something called GitBook AI. And GitBook AI is a piece of GitBook that lives throughout a couple different parts of our product. And the first one we're going to explore with that is the ask or search. So basically what this allows you to do is ask, or search for anything specifically inside of your GitBook space. So if you're looking for a page, if you're looking for a space, you can go ahead and look for it. But what you're also able to do is ask GitBook AI questions specifically on the things that you have. So for instance, we have this Jetstream documentation here, and this is just kind of some mock data. But we can go up here and ask something like, can you explain what Jetstream is? And we can use GitBook AI to analyze the content and answer the question. And this is just a little description that we had come up with for Jetstream. But what's really cool about this is you can kind of rate the answers depending on how useful they are. This is going to help also make the answers a lot more reliable in the future. And you'll also see the sources that this is all based on. So you'll see the page and the space specifically that you can go look at for a little bit more extra information. You'll also see some related queries here as well, which allow you to ask further questions or get more context on whatever you're working on. But not only is GitBook AI specifically rooted inside of the search bar, there's a lot of other places where this is also relevant. Actually, one of them being inside of the writing section. So you might have seen this while I was demoing a little bit of this before, but we have a section inside of the block insertion called Write with AI. On a new line, you'll also see this little prompt that says press space to use AI as well. And this allows you to harness AI to write really a lot of different things for you. You can also have it explain things, ask it to write a paragraph, but do other useful things too, like summarize this page for me, explain a block or something, or even translate entire pages to different languages. This is something that we've just shipped recently as well. So make sure you go ahead and check this out and see how it works for you. We can say something like finish this page with relevant information. And this is going to use GitBook AI again with the rest of the information inside of the space. And again, you can ask it to do it again, done, make it longer, shorter, or continue writing. So very useful stuff, very cool stuff that we've been shipping as well. So again, make sure you try it out and see how it works for you. But the next thing that I wanted to kind of dive into off the back of GitBook AI is a few of the other places that it's used in. The next one being Snippets. Now, this is something that we had released about a month ago. And as you can see, it's still in beta, some of the integrations in alpha as well. But this is a really, really cool feature that we shipped to allow you and your team to add knowledge and capture knowledge to your knowledge base a lot easier. We have three main ways to create a snippet. And maybe I should explain what a snippet is to start. A snippet you can think of as just like a little piece of knowledge that you can add to your knowledge base or any pages that you're working on. You can read the docs on this as well if you want to read a little bit more in depth, but think of it as just, well, I guess a little snippet. And you can create them in a couple of different ways. The first way being with Slack. So we have an integration with Slack that allows you to capture and add them directly here. We also have one for Visual Studio Code, or we can go ahead and create your own. I don't have enough time in this webinar to demo the VS Code or Slack integrations, but I can describe how they work very quickly. The Slack one allows you to summarize a thread by just calling the GitBook bot right away. So for instance, you can see in this little page, it says GitBook, how can I configure? You can also ask any of the questions that you asked in the upper left-hand, it's just asked in the upper left-hand corner directly in Slack as well. So if you're mainly working in Slack and not opening GitBook so often, just go ahead and ask it right to the bot in any channel that you're working on. But you can also, again, add information to here by just calling GitBook save. What that's going to do is it's going to read the entire thread that you might have made a decision on or asked some questions and gotten some more clarity on. And GitBook AI is going to come in. It'll go ahead and summarize the entire thread and add it as a snippet. So for instance, something like this was added directly from Slack. So this could have been, I think this was maybe a conversation with one of my colleagues on, well, optimizing images during next build and Next.js. There was a bit of back and forth coming from the conversation, but finally there was a resolution. And the cool part about this is the GitBook AI will take off all of the kind of unnecessary information that kind of bloats this up. And it will just give you the relevant information and the answer that you need. Now, any of the snippets are also filled into GitBook AI again. So because it's here, we can also ask questions about that right away and go from there. But you can also create your own snippet manually right from this button here. So we can also say, this is a demo snippet. This also works very similarly, well, almost exactly the same to the content editing experience. It's also filled in with live edits as well. So you can collaborate on these with other people. Insert different things like different blocks, integrations. But for this, let's actually use GitBook AI again and say, write a paragraph about Denver. I'm currently in Denver right now, so maybe we can learn something a little bit new. So this is going to generate a demo snippet. And like I mentioned as well, this is all able to be edited live. So if you have other people who are collaborating on this stuff, you can go ahead and do that in one. Okay, cool. So this is all good to go. We have now our snippet. But what's cool is you could very well just leave this inside of a snippet and access it later. You can also copy a link directly to it. So if you just want to share like a little information with someone, you can copy this link and they can go ahead and edit and take a look at it here. You can delete it. What's also cool is you can convert this to a page. So you can think of the flow being maybe you and your colleagues have discussed a very important change to an API, or maybe just a piece of information related to the product in Slack. You capture it in Slack. It will end up here. You can edit it, use GitBook AI to summarize some things or work on it. And when you're ready, you can convert this to a page and add this directly to a space that you're working on. So the one that I was working on before, company knowledge base, we're going to just add that this snippet as a page directly to it there. So now when we head here, you'll see that demo snippet is right here, and we can still again continue to edit it and merge that in whenever it's done. So there's a lot of really cool kind of workflows and things around snippets that you can already use, and there's also a lot more that we want to add as well. So any snippet that you make as well will be available to be added as a page link or also a little block, just another way to kind of take a look at that. But if you want to actually do something like snippet, you'll see all of the ones that we have here. And this will link directly to it. So make sure you check that out, play around with snippets. Again, they're in beta right now, but we've been battle testing them the last month or so. And it's been working really, really great, but we'd love to hear more feedback from you on how this is working for you and any improvements or even feature requests related to that you want to see. Now, one of the last parts of the product that I kind of want to dive into is also built on top of GitBook AI, and it's the Insights panel. We've had the Insights panel in GitBook before, and you might have seen it related to a space, but we've added a ton more functionality specifically to Insights that hopefully are a lot more useful to you. It's split up into 3 different sections. We have content audit, content scores, and search analytics. Each one doing a little bit different other things. So let's take a look at content audit first. Again, this is all based off of GitBook AI, but this is a very, very useful feature that allows you to make sure that your content is always fresh and up to date. There's a couple different ways that this works, so let's take a look at this. But what it does is in any of the spaces that you have this enabled on, if you have content audit, you also will have to request access to a lot of this right now. So if you do see this page, feel free to press the request access button and we'll hop in here and help you out. But basically GitBook AI will be running on the pages that you're running, analyzing them and looking specifically for discrepancies between the two, any of the pages that it finds. So for instance, this one is first. It shows that there is some contradictory content and a little bit of a snippet on like what is going on as the overview, and we'll show you the 2 different sources. So for instance, what this is basically saying is there are 2 pages inside of this documentation that say different things. The other way that this works as well is if there's duplicated content. So if you are working on a really big doc site with your colleagues, maybe someone doubled up on some of the information, you'll also see that here. We can open one up very quickly to see what happens. So this one says that there is some, well, the target sources introduce additional checks related to privacy rules not mentioned in the origin source for resolving error 404. So there's a little bit more information. Again, this is all kind of demo data. So feel free to try this out and see how it's working for you. But what we can do is basically take a look and see which one that we want to be the real one. So we can open up a change request and add this information in somewhere. We can also remove it, edit it, and do whatever we want there, or copy some of it and again, kind of allow you to use GitBook AI to help you clean up the stuff that you're making. Or whenever it's done, you can click Mark as resolved and it will skip that one there. So take a look at these. Try it out, but also keep in mind that this is a feature that we launched pretty recently, and it is also in a closed alpha, which is why you have to, again, request access. But if you're interested in this, if this would be useful for you, make sure you click request so you can help us figure out what we can improve on before we bring it out of alpha. The next one is content scores. This has been around for a little bit as well. So if we head to a space that's published, you'll be able to see the user sentiment on the different pages that you see here. It'll give like a little bit of an explanation and also what pages are doing well. And these are all based on the scores that you can enable here. So I think I didn't enable this one, but I can show you where it is very quickly. Under the customize and configure, you can head to page rating. And that's going to give you this, was this page helpful section right here, which again will feed it into the insights panel inside of the content scores. The last one we have is search analytics as well. So we can kind of parse through this a little bit. Let's take a look at the Jetstream docs in the last year. Not so many, again, because it's a demo site, but you'll see the things that people are searching for the most and the number of results that come up. So you can take a look and say, oh, people are looking for this quite a lot. Maybe we need to update our pages, merge them together, or even add a new page or delete some pages based off this. We basically also allow you to calculate page traffic, but again, that is going to be one of our analytics solutions. So you'll be wanting to head to the integrations panel inside of the space in order to find that. And again, we have a lot of different ones. So hop in here, check them out, and see which ones work for you. And you can also configure those however you want afterwards as well. So I think this is a pretty good overview of all the different things that we have in GitBook, a lot of the main changes from a previous version, if you've seen that before. But yeah, thank you everyone so much for joining in and watching the webinar. Hopefully you learned something new. hopefully you're excited for what we're working on. And any questions that you had were hopefully answered. If not, we have a bustling community on our GitHub. So make sure you head to github.com/gitbookio, and you should be able to find our community page under the discussions tab there. Feel free to say hi. Let us know what's going on, what you like, what you don't like, and any other features that you would like to see inside of GitBook. And we are going to be there chatting with you and asking a few more questions. We have a lot of stuff I said that we're working on, and a few of you might be seeing some of these changes or some previews in your own GitBook spaces. So let us know what you like and any feedback or bugs that are coming up. Again, we are highly receptive to feedback, and it's super important to us. So if you have any concerns, let us know, because we'd love to hear it. But yeah, again, thank you everyone so much for joining. My name is Addison, and hopefully see you around in our community. If not, enjoy the rest of your days. Bye, everyone.